Hello, welcome to UGears US UKids LLC assembly video. Today we're going to be doing bike VM-02. This model has been long overdue for the assembly, and I guess it is for me to start it now. There have been some video requests for it, so it's a fairly quick and simpler model, so it's should be about 2-3 hours for the assembly, maybe a little bit more. I know it is somewhat delicate, but we'll see how it's gonna pan out. So just as always, we're opening up a new box here, and let's see, let's start off. I'm gonna put the box on the side, obviously, because we're not gonna need it for the assembly. Underneath the base of the box, there is a little stick of candle wax, but I'm gonna use one of my own. So I mean, you can either use this one or use, well, I'm using, personally, I like the tea light candle because the wax is a little bit softer, especially when you get it in your hands. It kind of like softens up a little bit, and it's easier to use on the parts, but this one is perfectly fine. Should work for the application that we're doing. So we got only 2 boards in here, plus the set of the instructions, which I'm gonna get to right now. There's some toothpicks, rubber bands, and sandpaper. So I'm gonna separate all of these now, and this is an extra board, the smaller board, thinner material than the rest of it. So I'm gonna use the sandpaper. These are my instructions, and I'm gonna put these rubber bands and toothpicks into the box just to make sure that I don't lose it. There's 2 black ones, rubber bands, and a few small yellowish color, orange color rubber bands, and then a little bit of a toothpicks. So not too many, but some. All right, now, as I mentioned, we have 2 boards, board number 1, board number 2, and a set of the instructions. So board's gonna go on the side for now. Gonna kind of set up a little bit, and here's our instructions. So there is a little insert here, talks about the design of the model. And if you need any part replacements, you can send email to myugears@gmail.com. I'm actually not sure if this is working now. So customer service at ugearsmodels.com. That's one of the emails that's gonna go directly to the manufacturer. Normally it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for the replacement parts, because they're gonna ship out of Ukraine. Or if you purchase through my site, www.ugears.us, I can send you the replacement parts at no charge from my warehouse. Just send email to info@ugears.us. That's info at UGears, UGears.us, and specify the part number that you need, and we'll send it over to you if you place it through our site or one of my affiliates, the store that I sell to. Just need to let me know the name of the store, and we can go from there. Otherwise, I can send replacement for a little charge of $3.50 just to cover my postage and envelope cost, but it's still, I can send it out from the warehouse in United States. So a little bit of the manual. Obviously, the candle, do not light it up. You don't need to melt it, so just regular candle wax, nothing else to it. And then obviously, when you're working with the toothpicks, don't press on the sharp end. This is a regular 2-point toothpick that is available at any grocery store. So if you run out, just go up into your kitchen counter and grab a couple more from the little stockpile if you have one. If not, as I said, it's a grocery store, or you can contact us to get some replacements. Some warnings on the manual. When you see this sign, you need to wax the parts. Exclamation point, you need to pay attention to make sure. Sometimes it's some specific step in the instructions that you don't want to miss. Little fan with arrows that's free, should be rotated free rotational part, so when you spin it, they should go freely without any hesitation. If you see the little sandpaper, that means you do need to sand it up a little bit, and then this is to cut the parts. So the only tool that you actually need is a little X-Acto knife or scalpel or sharp knife just to cut the toothpicks or some delicate parts out of the boards. Otherwise, you should be able to complete the assembly without any problems. Once again, there is bottom right of the instruction. There's a little tool on board number 2, bottom left. And that tool will help you out to get some of the smaller parts out of the boards. Also, if you see anywhere little add plus sign, these are spare components, spare parts that manufacturer thinks that may break during the assembly. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. If some other parts break, once again, we just covered it a few minutes ago, how to obtain them. So let's go ahead and start with the assembly. I'm gonna try to move the manual as far up so it gives me more room to work. And some of you guys don't need to look at the manual on the video because you're gonna have one of your own right in front of you. But just in case, I'm gonna have it there. So we're on page 4, step number 1. Actually, right before the step number 1, it tells you to grab 3 toothpicks and cut them in half. So that'll create a total of 6 parts that you need. So I have myself a little nice board here. This toothpick doesn't look very good. It's got some darkening on it, so I'm gonna pitch it and grab a next one. There's a couple extra usually in the kit, so if you're gonna break one or mess up one, not a big deal. You can always, you should have some spares on there. So let's go with the board number 2. We start with part number 1, which is located on the bottom right corner. This is the big piece here. And then also pay attention because inside of that big piece, you have a little parts right here that you just need to push out to make sure that they don't stay there and don't interfere with your assembly. It shows us that we need to wax the internal part. So with the little hook on the right hand side, we sand, sorry, not wax. We sent the board here, the part at the location where it shows. You don't need to sand much, just a little bit of application. And then actually for this purpose, the candle wax that is provided is much easier to use. Or once again, I'll use one of the toothpicks. Let's see. The other option is kind of like cut out a piece of wax from tea candle, and use that piece to, so we need to wax right around this hole, and inside of it a little bit, and then this hole. Just a little wax. That's a step number 2. Then step number 1 on the bottom portion of the page, we need parts number 2. They're on this little piece that we just pull out from number 1. So we need 2 parts number 2, 1 and 2. Once again, if you break the board, not a big deal. You don't need it as long as you can get the parts. Little burrs on the parts, so just make sure you remove them. So we need 2 parts number 2, 2 parts number 3. To remove the parts easy from the board, usually just work it back and forth a little bit. Make sure you press at approximate locations of the connection points. Otherwise, you're risking to break the part, especially if it's a longer and fragile part. But shouldn't be a big deal of pulling them out. A little bit that tells us there's another tool that I use occasionally. That's the wrong one. It's a little precision file, just to get on the smaller parts. It's easier to work with than the sandpaper provided, but either tool should work. So it's either that or you do that with the sandpaper. Once again, you don't need much, just a couple little slides just to get that little burrs out of the way. And then obviously a little bit of a candle wax just on the side, so the parts slide easy onto part number 4. So that's the one that we may sand and wax. Now parts number 3, make sure you insert them the correct way from one side and the other, and they should look symmetrical on both sides all the way in. And then parts number 2 to cover it up. So there's a longer and a shorter piece. That's what the little exclamation point stands there for. And you make sure it just rotated that way. There's little 2 dots that indicate the longer side. So that's the one that's gonna be along the shorter axis of the part number 4. So once you enter that, 2 these, and then you need half of the toothpick that we just pre-cut, push through the little center hole here. So as you can see, I can use also the tool to help me out. Flush from one side, sticking out on the other side. So one way you can just break it off, make sure you hold it, and then a little bit of a sanding on that side just to make sure that you don't have that broken toothpick sticking out. And then a little bit of sanding on the other side because I didn't push it all the way in. And here's our step number 2 on the bottom page is complete. So we're moving on to the step number 1 to the right bottom. Here's our little helping tool. We take the 2 half toothpicks, push it from the bottom of the holes, and then I use the table as helping tool for myself just to push the toothpicks up. And we take one of the rubber bands, we pull it, let's see, we put it on there, and we need to tie it up. To do what later on? Okay, that just shows us the distance that it needs to be tied at. So make sure don't pull on a rubber band too much. Little trick, the way to tie the knot on there is you hold the rubber band, you bring it around like over the top, and in the loop that you just created, you slide that end in. That's your nut. I do have a separate video for that nut on the YouTube, on my YouTube channel. You can look it up. Just more detailed and kind of like more zoomed in. So you just move it around to get it to the distance that you need. Once again, the rubber band doesn't need to sit like super tight on there. It's just approximate distance. So just like this, make sure it sits, and then tie up as much as you can and slice off the extra part right after the nut. So now we have that little rubber band that we created on step number 3. Moving on to page number 5. Step number 1, we take that little sub-assembly, pull the little end of the rubber band through, and then the other end should go right into that hole, so creating a little loop. And it's a little shorter than I expected, so I'm gonna move into the step number 3. Use a little bit of a candle wax onto part number 2. Ooh, we forgot a little toothpick on this piece number 1 in the earlier part, so just push it in just to be sure that we have it on there. And let's see, what is our okay, so now with the rubber band, I had to go a little bit in to the manual to see what we need to do. So we push one end through the hole here, the second end, we push through that loop. All right, my hands are a little slippery after all the wax that I just used. Probably need to get a towel. Let's try again. Need to stretch it a little bit. To get that loop through. Or we might need a little extra tool, which conveniently I have available. Little that was a paper clip that I opened up, so it's just a regular paper clip, just to use to hook it and help me push that piece through as I'm struggling through it. Which is not helpful either. I guess that assembly will take longer than I was expecting it to take, just because of this little rubber piece. All right. My hands are slipping. One more try. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna loop it around. I'm gonna take my paper clip, push through the little hole, grab onto the other end. Here you go. And then make sure it goes through and pull it through. Yay, success. So here we go. We got it wrapped around. And now what we need to do is that little piece of rubber band, we need to wrap it about that toothpick. Not wrap it, but pull through the loop of the toothpick that is sticking out. Make sure it's through on top of that little toothpick of the sub-assembly that we have. And just like this, actually got it wrong. So it should be the other way around. It should be on top. So I'm gonna grab it from the other side, go over the top onto the toothpick and right into the hole, just like this. And then take that paper clip out. So that part should stay in there. So, and we're done with step number 3 on the bottom of the page there. Moving on to the page number 6, push that one aside, and we need part number 2, which we have a few here on the side. We need 3 of them. Part number 5, which would be on, let's see, board number 2, to the right here, bottom right. And then part number 6, which also that part, partially of that little assembly there. All right, and same thing, we need to sand a little bit part number 5. Put a little wax. Another way is just to kind of slide it through that little candle wax. And then it should be plenty. And then part number 6. Now we have the exclamation point, so we need to pay attention to it. So we're gonna hold part number 5 like this, and then little stab should face you. So it's 2 in the center. Both of the 6 are facing the same direction, and then 2 number 2s on the sides. From one side and then from the other side. And center them around. Let's see, it should be actually one side. So if this little notch is facing you, the right side should be sticking out. So we push it all the way in against the table and we're good. Then actually take a little bit of a wax and wax outside number 2 parts. And then this little sub-assembly goes right underneath that part that we just made, with the teeth, the longer piece towards you, and this little pointers facing up. So we lift that little sub-assembly and insert that part there, and it should stay like this. All right, so we're down on step number 4, page number 6. Need part number 8, which is on board number 1, and a little buff on the right hand side above the center, or to the right of the center above the middle. Just need to stay consistent. And then part number 7 would be right here to the right. There are 2 of them, or to the left, I apologize. To the left of that part number 8 and a little bit above, inside this circle inside the wheel. So we just need to be a little bit gentle here because these are delicate parts, to get all the extra material off of it, and put it on a side that is not needed. Alrighty, so we need that part number 8, sand and wax sides here of the little tabs that are sticking out. And then we need to sand the outside and inside of part number 7. And then a little bit of waxing. All right, so with the little hole facing towards the left, we insert the part number 7 through that little square hole or rectangular hole on the bottom. Rotate it, and it should face in the same direction as the little tab. Now we have parts number 9. They're on a small little thin piece of board. So we need parts number 16. Which is on the actually board number 1 on the top here, right inside the wheel tire. That's going to be the outermost piece, 16, and then we just follow the lead 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. And that's how we insert it. So we go and start with a 9. Doesn't matter which way the number's facing. So just make sure you go through the little tab. And carefully push it all the way in. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 16 on the top with a little bold circles visible, just like this. All right, and then we're completed page number 6. Moving on to the page number 7. So we have the other part number 7. Once again, don't forget to sand on inside and outside of the long tabs. And then the same sequence, we do 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 16 also on board number 1 and the second wheel there. Some part number 2. So the same scenario, we go with part number 7 through that rectangular hole, kind of hold it, and then start with 9, push it in all the way down to the bottom. That's our little engine assembly. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Once again, the bold circles on the outside. And we got ourselves a little engine. Let's see, step number 3 on page number 7 are parts number 17, 2, and 18, and all of them are found on board number 1. So 2 18s are in the, right underneath the 8th that we just pulled out, and 17 is right above it. So you can use the helping tool, pressing the parts, and we got a couple number 2s already on laying on the side, so just need 2 of them. Now we're just wax a little bit part number 17, and I'm kind of dipping it into my little candle wax here, and then let's see, we put we just needed 118, but I pulled 2. We need it for later, so we put number 2 first, then one of the 18, and then number 2 again. So 18 should go, like you see the slots in number 17, so little dips on 18, or notches, I guess. They should be on the same axis. And then the same line up with the 2 dots on number 2. So now it shows that this should be, I guess, one of the number 2 closer to the center, on the center line, but right at the center, somewhere around there. So push it in as far as I can, but then it's gonna look that little piece on the left sticking out a little bit more than on the right, just because you have the sub-assembly there. Right, and then we take the engine with the hole facing towards the left. We need to make sure these parts are waxed, so I'm gonna grab a little bit of a wax and generously apply to it. So now I'm gonna push it through that little hole up until, with the shorter side, up until it stops. And then we'll do number 18 and 2 on the other side. Same way. So both of them are facing the same direction. I mean, number 18s, and then number 2 to lock it up. just like this, and make sure that it rotates freely as shown in step number 6. And then you insert that little sub-assembly into our big assembly, into the hole right here. There should be another toothpick sticking out here, which again I guess I missed, but it's not a problem because we can insert it at any point. And then make sure that the engine, the little toothpick, goes through that hole of the engine, so just to keep it in place. So as we insert it with the longer part towards you, and then it's gonna sit like this, and also there's a little bit of a not a little bit, but nice movement of that axle. All right, we're done with page number 7. Moving on to page number 8 of the instructions manual. Yeah, let me check everything is in the same location. Alrighty, step number 1 on page number 8. We need parts number 24, 23. They're all on 20, 22, 21, 20, and 19. So they're all on board number 2 in the top right corner here. So we just pull it out from the whole part of the board from part number 26, and we'll start 19 is that longer piece right here. So get that out. And then parts number 20, 2 of them. Let's see, 20, then I need 21 in between them. 22 also in between the two 20s. Then 23, make sure you don't mix them up. And then 24. Now, what we need to do is we need to send part number 19, the longer portion of it, just a few strokes. Then we need to wax it, the longer portion of it. Wax the outside of the 20s. Wax the 21, the surfaces. Obviously apply wax to gears of the little gear. And another 20. Size of 23. And then need to sand outside just to remove the little connection points outside of part number 24, and then apply wax outside of it. Now the assembly, so we take part number 19, we push the 20 through it, all the way in. Then there's part number 21 that goes on there, and then the 21, let's see, it's a little offset, so the hole is on the bottom, which doesn't matter in this because it's a symmetrical part, so that should go in right on there all the way at that number 20. Then we push the part number 22 on there, I guess to any of the distances. Then we do another part number 20 and try it on. So it will go easier one way. It should be square, but might be easier for it to go one way. And then on the 23, make sure the hole is on the bottom and the little longer tab facing away from you, and that's how you insert it to here. And then cover it with the 24. Now we need a toothpick. We have one left. Might be from another assembly. And then we push it through that little hole on a part number 19. And I'll push it until it sticks out just a tiny bit. And then cut on the other side, holding it vertically just to make sure that I don't break any components. So it sticks out a little bit on both sides, and that kind of pushed the part number 24 against it. And then 20, and then little part number 23 over it. Now, our little gear should be in between these two little marks here, just like that. Now on the other hole, we need 3 rubber bands. And then I use my little paper clip that we've used before. Push it through the hole. Put the rubber bands on it, and then push it back out. Just like this. That's our step number 4. Step number 5. So there's a little exclamation, not exclamation, but something to pay attention to. When you push the part 24 against the toothpick, make sure the toothpick doesn't stick out past the outside of that cylinder. So it'll sit where it's supposed to be. All right, so now we have the rubber bands in there. Take that larger sub-assembly, and let's see, we need to insert it into our body. So one side there's exclamation point, so we need to make sure, once again, we're inserting with the longer piece, or is it shorter? Let's see, sticking towards the top. Shorter's, that's the one that we're inserting. And then on the other side, it's the same thing. So the longer should be sticking out. Just like that. All right, and we're done with step number 6. Just making sure that everything's okay and I didn't give you the wrong information. So yeah, the longer the circles or cutouts should be closer to the body there. All right, so we're moving on to the page number 9, and instruction step number 1. We need part number 25, which is located on board number 2 to the right here. So this is a little fragile part, so make sure you're nice and gentle when you pull it out. Maybe want to pre-cut it with this X-Acto knife before pushing it out. But and then here we take the rubber band that we just pushed through, the 3 of them, pull it from one side right underneath here, under that tab, and then put the other side on the opposite end, just like this. Now we need to pull the rubber bands. Let's see. So the tabs should be facing up towards this side, and the rubber band pulled to the side. And now you pull it and insert it into the hole here. just like this, and push it as hard as you can to get it in completely. Rubber band's going to be a little bit tight pulling on that part, but you should be okay. Alrighty, and that's step number 2 is completed. So just insert the rubber bands, put it in the hole, and then set it aside. Just be a little gentle. Now we need another toothpick, sliced in half. And then parts number 27 and 28, both of those are on board number 2. 27 is a top on the right here a little bit, and then 28 all the way to the left. So careful pushing those out. And then we need to do the toothpick. Make sure your gears cuts facing that way, counterclockwise. And push the toothpick through that part number 28, the 2 holes. Once again, I'm using the table as a leverage. Okay, now push it simultaneously on both sides to make sure I don't break the part number 28. And then, well, you might want to wax a little bit of toothpick too, just to make it easier. Slide through, and then part number 27, once again, leveraging against the table, pushing it all the way in. And then we need to cut off the 2 toothpicks right at the base. So I usually, once again, you can either break them off or you just pre-cut a little bit and then kind of snap them off. Makes it pretty easy. Once again, I'm gonna send off these little pieces. Need to apply wax on the outside of part number 27. And then we need to insert part number 29, which is also on board number 2, to the right here, a little bit above the middle. And then the part number 29 should go through both the gear and a little piece here. As far as it can go, and make sure it doesn't stick out on the other side. So you want to press it against some surface or table, so it should be flat on the bottom there. Now, step number 5, little sanding or waxing could help to push it through so you don't break it. But once again, sometimes you do need, sometimes you don't. If your parts are a little tighter, you might need to sand a little bit. If they're not, then you're good to go. Part number 26, top right of board number 2. And then the same thing, we need to, let's see, sand and wax inside the holes. And sand, not sure why this surface, but actually both surfaces probably on inside and outside. Then a little bit of wax right around the holes, but because we're waxing the those parts, the cylinder parts, you might not need it like on the inside. But let's see, we're gonna wax on both sides just in case, and we're good to go. So as I said, we need to wax that larger gear too, so the teeth are facing counterclockwise here with the longer piece sticking towards you. All right, and now that 26 with the little curvature sticking towards the right, we insert it in a big hole right here, kind of like to the right of the center line. And let's see, make sure that it's rotated there, nice and smooth. Moving on to page number 10 of the instructions manual. Now this step number 1, we need little parts number 30. There's a bunch of them here, and part number 31. So let's see, part number 31, and we need to make 2 of those. 31 is on board number 2, on top left here, the 2 parts number 31. And then we take those little pieces out. There's a bunch of additional ones. So 4 on each side, we just need a set of 8. Separate them all. These look, they're gonna be tough. So now we need to insert it into the little slots here. So kind of pre-insert it and then use our tool. I'll remove the toothpicks from here to make sure I don't poke myself. There's like that little tab. We use it to push the part all the way in. So try to center it first and kind of like pre-insert it a little bit. Don't have to push it all the way in. So once you pre-insert it, use the tool and push it all the way in. And just repeat that step a few times. You might want to use the little bit of a table too. Don't push it too hard on the sides. And let's see, number 4. Just like this. Make sure you try to push it as far in as possible. And then we'll do on the second one. Here, a little exclamation point, and we need to make sure that they're sitting in there nice and parallel to the surface. So you might want to kind of flatten it out. Just make sure it doesn't stick out. The little part's number 30 out of 31. So the one, little tough and tight, but the tool helps a lot. So just push it as far in as you can. Make sure there is no space there. So it's up to the surface. All the way in. Just continue checking, make sure that I'm still recording. Tough little guys, but just like that. So we got the 2 parts in, once again against the surface, just to make sure they're flat in there. All right. And then let's see, now we take that little sub-assembly that we just did, and one of those goes right over that little tab. We waxed around the portion, the little surface already, so we're good to go with waxing. We got that one in. Now we need part number 52, which is on board number 2 to the left of the 31 there. A little bit larger piece, and we need a little bit more of these little parts number 30. Let's see, are we gonna need to make now just 1 for now? So we just need 4 of these, right? Gonna put these on a side, so we have plenty of spares. Separate them. Same thing, pre-insert it. Then use the tool to push it in all the way into the hole. Insert it, push it in. Once again, you got plenty of spares on these, so if you break one, it shouldn't be a problem at all. If you break two, not a problem. 3, not a problem. 8, not a problem, because you have almost double of them, or not double, not almost, but more than double what is actually needed for the assembly. Alright, so all the way in. Once again, make sure they're flat, sitting nice and flat in there. And we insert it over into the same sub-assembly. Make sure it's rotating nice and easy. And then part number 53 to cover it all up. And that's going to be right here, right at the center line, almost all the way at the top. There's 3 of them. We just need 1 for now. Also push it over as far as it can go and make sure it's still rotational. Rotates nice and easy. Now, need part number 32. We're in step number 5 on board number 10. Also on board number 2 is this piece right here. That's our stand. Once again, this one is a little bit fragile piece based on my experience, as I'm getting requests to replace it. So just be careful taking it out. And that piece, we'll take our larger sub-assembly that goes into the hole right here. Then you kind of want to lift it up a little bit so it's not on the way, and then we cover with a little assembly, so match the toothpicks. One toothpick, 2, and then we need to get that little stand in there. And kind of start squeezing it together little by little. And aligning the parts. To get them in. So we'll start with the front. Make sure we get that little rubber band holder and the extension foot I guess rests, and then slowly moving towards the back. We're gonna get all the sub-assemblies in there lined up with the holes. To get them in. Perfectly, just working my way up. There you go. Almost all the pieces are in place now. let's see, don't forget the little gear there should be in that hole. So I need to push it down a little bit. Here we go. And that was the last part, I think, that was preventing me from going in. So it should be through here and sitting into that little larger gear too. All right. So it looks like everything is seated properly where it's supposed to be. And the main part, that's what's shown here in the step number 6. So that gear, one piece, one side should be into that larger gear here. And then the second side through that hole right here, so it's so it can rotate. So we're done with step number 6 on page number 10. Moving to page number 11 and step number 1. So we need to put that little sub-assembly onto the little tab that is sticking out here. And push it all the way in, free rotation. Then we cut off the toothpick on the bottom here flat, so I just snapped it off. And then on the other side right here, the one that's sticking out should be sticking out about 2 millimeters. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna push it, let's see if I can somehow measure it. Gonna push it in so it sticks out 2 millimeters on the other side, or around there. Right, and then snap it off on this side. Clean it up a little bit. So it's nice and straight, and then push it from the other side back out. So now it sticks out requested 2 millimeters. So next we insert 2 ports number 53 on that little tab that is on the left there, right under the engine. They're on board number 2, top right at the center. All the way down. That's our step number 2. Step number 3, take one of the black rubber bands and kind of wrap it around, not kind of, but wrap it around the 2 pieces here. So it looks nice and pretty, kind of like a chain. So larger gear and a smaller gear. And then we make sure that's both of those spin easy. Or actually, it should go on the back there of this, on the smaller gear. So it shouldn't be going on the large. Should be going on the small right behind it. Just like that. That's where it shows here. And then our next step, and make sure you fix it between the teeth and everything. Next step, on the bottom there, parts number 33, 34, 35. All of them on board number 1. 33 is a little bit above the middle here on the left. Then 34 is right below it. And 35 would be on the right here, a little bit above the middle. Now we need 2 toothpicks, or 1 toothpick cut in half. We actually had some already pre-cut. So make sure your little tab is facing away from you. And then you insert the toothpick from the right. Number 34. There's no tabs here, so doesn't matter. And number 33 in last, and then we put a little bit of a wax on the little tab of part number 35. Cut off the toothpicks or snap them off. Sand it down a little bit. All right, and then we need part number 36 for step number 3. Part number 36 would be on board number 2 on the top left here, right above the middle. And then let's see. So with that little sub-assembly with the hole away from you, that little tab also away from you, that's how we insert it into the first hole. Until it's all the way in. Nice and flat. Then we need part number 37 and 38, both of them on board number 1. 37, it was next to the 35, and 38 is going to be on the bottom here. So 37 first, a little wax on the tab. We're actually going to use the wax provided. It's easier to reach. And a wax is just to help the part to sit. Alrighty, so 37's first, tap closer to you or on the right if you're pushing it in, and then part 38 on the left, just like that. We're done with page number 11, moving on to page number 12 of the instructions. Next, part number 39, also on board number 1 on the right there, and 40 is on the, also on the right, a little below the middle. Tap closer to you or on the right, tap on the left, so it's kind of sequence. Part number 41 and 42, also board number 1. 41 is next to 40, 42 is right below it. Same thing, wax the tab on both of those. 41 on the right, 42 on the left. Make sure it sits all the way in. 43, 44, same scenario. 43 is right next to 42, and 44 is right at the center here, center and just a little below the middle. Um, 45, 46, same board. 45 is bottom left here, and 46 right at the center line, below the middle, closer to the bottom. Make sure it sits as far in as you can so it don't flush with the surface there. That's our tank that we're creating, gas tank. And then 47, 48, all the way in the bottom here. At the the center line. Use the tool to help me push it in a little bit, as I cannot get enough grip. So these parts all the way in. Now we need the toothpick cut in half. And then insert it into the holes here of part number 48. And then part number 49 and 50, they're also on the bottom of the board number 149 is at the center there, and 50 is on the right, bottom right almost. And then we push it through these toothpicks all the way flat. And then we cut off the little toothpicks at the end there. And our last step, number 8, part number 51, and let's see, it should be board number 1 to the left above the middle. A little gauge that goes right into here. Just like that. Done with page number 12, moving on to the page number 13. Step number 1, we're putting that right above the engine, and there's 4 holes here, so we want to wax these little tabs, so it's going to be easier to sit the tank on there with a thicker portion towards the front. You sit it in there, make sure you get into the holes. And sit the tank right in the chassis. All right. Now we need 3 parts number 54. All of them are on board number 2. At the top left here, I'm gonna use the little tab or helping tool to get these out. And they're gonna go, so front facing to the left, they're gonna go into the 3 holes right here, right, the ones that are facing you. Next tab is part number 55, also on board number 2. It's in the middle to the left here. And then make sure that's the longer piece away from you. It's gonna go right at these little 2 slots here. On the bottom. We're gonna put a little bit of a candle wax. And do another attempt. And I need to work it in. Here you go. Snapped right in place. All right, and then a toothpick. I'm gonna lift that stand up, set it in place, make sure it's not on the way. So now we need the 1 full toothpick. let's see. So we need part number 56, 3 of them. They're on board number 1 and kind of split into the 3, section 1, 2, 3, right inside the wheels. Just clean up the burrs, and then we need to push the toothpick through one part here and then the 356. So kind of line them up. Make sure they're in the same direction and the same hole. And the toothpick goes all the way through. Then we're slice it off. Then we take another toothpick. We can put a little bit of wax on there, or we don't have to, and we push it through the bottom holes right here. Right, without any part going through it. And then we take another toothpick and then we push it through the all the way holes, all the way in the back. You can put a little bit of wax for it to go in smoother. So we're done with page number 13. Moving on to the page number 14. And then these two toothpicks, we need parts number 57 and 58 on both sides. They're both on board number 2. So 57, we're here on to the right, to the left of the center line, below the middle. So 57, 57, 58 is right above it at the center line almost. So 57 on one side, '57 on the other side, and 58, 58. Then we do 59 on, it's going to be on the back for me. So if you, on the right hand side, if you face the bike in the direction of driving. So 59 is at the center at the top of board number 2. And then with that little sharp point up, we get it onto that toothpick that is closer to the center, just like this. Okay, now our next step is part number 60, which is also on the board number 2 on the center here. And then with the lights, little cutouts facing towards the rear, we put it in a little space allocated for it. Push it in as far as it goes, and then break off the toothpicks on the back there. Or cut it off. All right, so put it aside. Next step, number 3, we need parts number 64. They're all board number 2. 64 on the bottom left here inside the wheel. Two parts number 62. They're on board number 1. Almost at the top on the left here. Then part number 61 right above 64 that we did, and then 63 is on board number 2 on the bottom of the center. All right, and now we wax 62, the little tabs. Make sure it's easy to insert it. This is the outside with a little circle around. If no colors is the inside, so we put on the outside 262s. Our step number 2, we push 64 into the 61. I guess it's only one way that it can go, so the hole is vertical, and then the tabs on the right and the left. Then we put 63 in, and then wax these little 2 tabs. We go through that hole all the way in, and we insert it in the other 2 tabs. Just like this all the way in. Now we need parts number 65, 66, and 67. They're on board number 1. 65 is going to be the top here. Then 66, that's going to be on the bottom on the left. Then 67 is right above it, like right in the middle to the left of the center line. You need to take that centerpiece out. Once again, 2 toothpicks. Push through 65 first. 65 facing that writing facing you. And it's gonna, the arrow is gonna point counterclockwise. We might wanna wax the 2 toothpicks. So there's a helping tool, not helping. So I'm using the table as the leverage. I'm holding the part number 65 right by the hole to make sure that I don't break it, but I just broke the toothpick, which is okay because we have spare ones. So I need to take that one out. So the next one's gonna go in much easier. Or should. Just like that. Next part is 66. Flat against 65, and then 67. Then this is going to go through the assembly with the little disc facing you. So we push it through that little sub-assembly there we just made in step number 3. Then another 67 on the other side. Then 66, also board number 2. Then 68, which is going to be on top left here, with the arrow pointing clockwise now. So that's our rear wheel. I'm going to push toothpicks a little further in and then break them off. All 4. And then part number 2. So now board number 1, I have some left here at the top within the 68. That goes right at the center axis. Axle. All the way in. We're done with page number 14, moving to the page number 15. Step number 1. We need to wax that number 2. I'm going to use the softer wax. And then we insert it through that hole. Kind of rotate that piece around to insert the little tabs right into that slot here that was sticking out. As far as it can go, all the way in. Then we insert the wheel with that part number 2 right into that opening there. And then we cut off the toothpick at the top, right here, one on the side. Part number 60 is popping out. Here we go. I just didn't insert it all the way in the first time. All right, so the wheel is in, and then we lock it with part number 69, which is on board number 2, right here, bottom, a little below the middle on the left. So we put a little bit of a wax on that little tab, as much as you can, and then push it through that little hole all the way in, just like that. It's gonna hold the wheel. Now we need part number 70, which is on board number 2, right in the middle center here. And then on that 70, we need the other 4 pieces of part number 30 that we get left, plus some spares that we have, but those spares just in case. Remove all the burrs, and just like the last time we did with part number 30, so you pre-insert it. Then you use the helping tool push it all the way in. And of course we want it to be within flat surfaces, just like that. Same thing here, pre-insert it. Now, if your eye's getting tired, I'd recommend to take a break, maybe come back to the project a little later. I'm gonna continue going because I don't have much left for the assembly. So pre-insert it, use the tool, push it in, flatten it out, make sure it's flat inside that little hole. Got it in, and then one more last piece all the way in, flat. Make sure it sits flat. One popped out. All right, so it's all the way in. And that was step number 3. Moving on to step number 4. We put it on the other side of the wheel. All the way in. And then part number 2. Wax it up. And then all the way in to like that part in place. Now we take the second black rubber band, we wrap it around that little big gear here. And onto the gear of the rear wheel, like that. And then this part should go through the hole in that little sub-assembly here. All right. Next step, we'll put part number 59. Which is at the top center here. That's the second one of board number 2. Wax a little bit. We don't need to because we did wax number 2 part. And the same thing, we put it through the toothpick onto the wheel, and then that should snap right into this assembly here. Holding the wheel, push the toothpick in, and then break it off. Send it down a little bit so it doesn't hurt anyone. And then we put the second part 69, which is in that board number 2 to the left of the center, a little bit below the middle, onto the other end. So same thing, gonna wax it a little bit and insert it here. Just like that. And then part numbers 2. I got one here, left, and then there's more on the board number 2, top left. So 2 parts number 2, and these go over the tab here. And right here. So again, there's a directionality. One is side is longer than the other, so just make sure you insert it correct. We're done with page number 15, moving to page number 16. Step number 1, so we need to wax these number 2s that we just put on. And then we insert parts number 71, 72, 73, and 74 right here into these spaces. So 71, 72, 73, and 74. So 71 goes in first. 72 is a smaller piece. Make sure you're not bracing yourself against the wheel, just to make sure you don't break the axle. Then 73 on the bottom here, so you hold the actual chassis. And then 74 at the top, closer to the front, just like that. Next step is part number 75 on a board number 2, right at this above the middle to the left of the center, and then 76, which is all the way to the center at the middle there. So these go on the left side of the bike. Just like that, and then 76 over tab here. Now we need to use the helping tool, step number 3. We need to cut one toothpick to this length. Let's see if we have any left. Right here, so we use the helping tool, push the toothpick in as far as it can go, and slice it off where it ends. Now we need part number 78, which is on board number 2, right here, a little bit above the middle to the right, kind of like halfway between the middle and the top. And then we put that little toothpick through that part number 78 all the way until it's flat, and then we put it onto the little tab right here that is sticking out. So hold the tab from the other side and put that lever up, and then use part number 77, which is at the center and the top of board number 2, to lock this gear in place. I'm gonna put a little bit of a wax. And push it in. As far as I can go, I'm using my little helping tool as the lever, just to help me get it in as far as possible. And then I'm also holding with my nail that part that is sticking out. I think it's part number 29, just to make sure that it doesn't break off. So now we have it like this. And let's see, step number 5, part number 79. That would be on board number 2, right at the center here, a little bit above the middle. So we wax both of the holes here by the tabs. And then the part that is shorter, let's see, we rotate the bike. We push it right at the little tab here and inside by the engine. Set it on the engine. And then part number 80, that's step number 6. Same thing, wax both ends. And the shorter one goes towards the engine and the other side. I'm holding the engine a little bit with my fingers on the other side. And I can get as far as you can go, just like this. Next one is gonna be a part number 81, also on board number 2. It's to the left in the middle here. And that part's gonna go one end into the middle one tab that we just did. Gonna connect them together. And then the second part insert it as much as you can. The second end right here in the tab, just like that. Moving on to page number 17, step number 1, need part number 82. Part number 82, and which is on board number 2. Also, we need to wax up both parts on there. And then put it onto the little pipe that we just did. And then step number 2 is part number 83, right at the center in the middle here. Then also wax 2 pieces, little notches here. And insert it into the slots. It's easier just to pull it out, insert it, the second piece, and get that back in place. So we're done with step number 2, so we got 2 pipes here. Now we need 3 more toothpicks, and that's exactly how many I got left, but we got some leftovers here which we can use. And it should be plenty. So I'm gonna keep these on the sides right now. Step number 1 is part number 65. Then 84, and then 68 is on the other side. part number 85. Two of them, they're on the front here. So we take the whatever leftovers toothpicks we got. Make sure you remove all these pieces from inside the wheels. Insert the toothpicks. As you can see, I'm using leftovers. 84. Actually, I'm gonna put a number 85 first. And then slice off these center toothpicks. Then we put it on part number 65. And then lock it up with the 65. Make sure that drawings are facing you again. Just like that. So that's our front wheel. And then we take off the toothpicks. Next step is number 3. We need part number 86, which is on board number 17. Then 3 parts number 88, which are on board number 2. So again, I'm going to use my tool to push these out. Helping tool, then part number 87, which is also on board number 1, bottom left here, bottom right, sorry. And then 3 parts number 2, which we had set on the side there. Got 2 popped out, and here's the 3rd one. So first we need to wax number 87 a little bit. Apply some of the wax, insert it into part number 86 on the bottom here. Then insert number 2s over it. Wax it up a little bit, and then we need 2 more toothpicks. Well, actually 1 toothpick split in half. Insert from number 86 from the back. That's our fork for the front wheel. And then parts number 88. So we got a longer piece and a shorter piece, so which is A and B. So the A goes towards the front, which will be that little 2 slots here. 1 slot, that's the back. And I'll just insert it like that. The shorter towards the front, the longer towards the back. Then we put the wheel through that number 2 parts, and then part number 89 on board number 1 at the top right here. We lock all that up, make sure to push it through the toothpicks. and squeeze it together. Make sure the wheel still rotates there. We need to wax up a little bit that toothpick. Yep. On both ends. Now it rotates fine, and then we cut off the little toothpicks. Make sure you squeeze them as far as possible. And cut it off. All right, we're done with page number 17 on board. Page number 17, moving on to page number 18, our last and final steps. So we got part number 92, 91, and number 2. So 91 is bottom left, 92 is of board number 1, and now 92 is board number 1, top right. One number 2 we had left in that little cluster there. And then we insert 92, wax it up a little bit. Through 91. And number 2, we lock it up on top. Then we take part number 90, that's the step 2, bottom right. And we insert it into the fork. These 2 holes at the center with a hole facing towards the back. We might want to wax it a little bit, these openings. And these on a fork. Push it in. Make sure the holes are centered. And we push it in as far as it can go. Now we do the little sub-assembly there we just did in step number 1. We also wax the openings here. And then we insert it from through the bottom of that hole. Oh, we probably need to wax part number 2. Not probably, but for sure, because it's gonna rotate. Just like this. And then we lock it up with part number 93 in step number 4. And part number 93 on board number 1. A little bit above the middle. It's like one of the only parts that are left there. Might want to wax it a little bit, that little tab. And then push it through the hole. Just like this. So I press on the part number 92, not too hard because you don't want to break off these leaves, and then insert the part number 3 to lock it all in place. One more toothpick, or leftovers of the toothpicks. Still have a couple left, so I can use those. So part number 94, they're on a little thin board there. We need part number 94. 95 is on the board number 1 on the bottom left here, or almost at the center. So we go with the toothpick through 94 first, then through 95, then 96 and 97. all the way in. Then we break off the little toothpick. We take part number 98, which is also on that little thin board, and we insert it with a little one tap in the center through the middle here. It's just like this, a little tough, tight clearance, and then that goes into these little slots right here in the front. So we might want to wax these a little bit just to get that piece in. And then part number 99, which is on board number 18. That goes right into the fork at the top here. As far as it can go, and we have ourselves a little fork with a wheel, and then that goes right in the front of the bike. We might want to wax again. Two little parts, and then these step number 9, we just insert it into the frame. And then those should go as far as possible. One side, then the other side, and then this side again, all the way in. So now we have our steering wheel, we got everything else, and the bike is complete. Okay, so this is the assembled model, and we just lift it here to wind it up, and then you start winding. Up to 15 times half turns. So try not to do more, because you might break the rubber band right here and some of the parts might snap. But you lift it up here, and then when you bring this lever down, the bike will move. So pretty much this completes our assembly. If there are any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me at info@ugears.us. If you broke any parts during the assembly, you can send us email at the same address, info@ugears.us, to request the parts. We'll provide them at no charge if you purchase the model directly from us. If you purchased it elsewhere, you will need either to contact the manufacturer directly at customer service at ugearsmodels.us, or we can do a shipping for $3.50 anywhere within the United States from our local warehouse, only if the model was purchased elsewhere. Otherwise, I'll provide the parts at no charge. Once again, with any questions, just leave a comment underneath this video, or send us email to info@ugears.us. This is Dimitri with UKIDS LLC, UGears US, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you. Bye.